How do I shape my bonsai? That's the question I get asked most often. So, in this episode, I'll teach you the fundamentals of styling your bonsai from bare branches to finished masterpiece. Hi, I'm from a bonsai company, and this is episode 4 of our mini-series. If you're new here, subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. Also, please like and comment below if you have any questions or if there is a topic you want us to cover in a future episode. Overall objective. First, you need to define what style you want your bonsai to be. Is it a formal upright, slanting, cascading, broom, root over rock, literati, driftwood? This is your guiding layout for how you'll prune and wire your tree, and also where you'll place the branches. But don't worry too much about making mistakes at this stage because you can always change it later. It's just good to have a general idea. We're going to use this Chinese elm as our example today, which will be styled into a slanting style called moyogi. There are 2 basic types of mochi, a single trunk with 1 leader and a multi-trunk tree with several leaders. For this demonstration, we'll focus on a single trunk. The first thing to consider is the overall taper of the trunk and how it leads you to the branches. A straight trunk with sharp angles between the trunk and branches looks stiff and unnatural. We'll soften these angles by adding a taper to the trunk. The taper should be gentle, no sharper than about 45 degrees. Remember, the goal is to make the branches look like they're growing out of the trunk, not attached to it. Next, let's take a look at the branches. Branches that grow inwards towards the center of the tree are called inward growing branches. Inward growing branches are bad because they fight each other for space. They steal energy from each other and the tree and should be removed. Another thing to watch for is crossing branches. These branches are bad for 2 reasons. 1, they rub against each other and will eventually damage each other or the tree. 2, they're hard to wire together since they can't touch. Wire crosses, wires crosses. I said no crossing. Crossing branches, again, get rid of them. Now that we've cleaned up the branches, let's look at the overall shape. We want the branches to follow a path around the tree. If you were to draw a line from the tip of one branch to the next and the next and the next, you'll see that we have a nice smooth path around the tree. Remember, you want the lines to flow into each other and avoid sharp angles. We also want to maintain an alternating pattern. This means if we view the tree from above, we want an asymmetrical pattern, no radial symmetry. Think of a clock face with the hands. You don't want your tree to look like that. Clock faces are symmetrical, trees aren't. Keep your branches alternating side to side and front to back. This will give you an asymmetrical and more natural look. Another thing to keep in mind is to avoid creating a wheel spoke pattern. When viewed from the side, you don't want your branches all sticking out exactly parallel to each other. Parallel branches are strong, but if they're not done correctly, they can look stiff and rigid, like the spokes of a wheel. You can use the spokes method for small trees, like conifers, but for larger trees, it's best to avoid it. If you're enjoying this video, please hit the like button. It really helps us out. Combining pruning and wiring. Structural pruning creates the tree's bones. It's where you make the big cuts to remove large branches and shape the tree's framework. Don't worry about getting every branch perfect when you prune. You can come back later and refine your cuts once the tree is wired. Structural pruning is mostly done by hand, although you can use pruners for small branches. Larger branches may require loppers. The cut should be smooth and sloping like this. Avoid making flush cuts. Flush cuts are completely flat and will look unnatural. The slope cut heals faster and looks like a branch that grew together with the rest of the tree. After you've done your structural pruning, it's time to wire the tree. Wiring is used to bend branches and hold them in place while you prune and create your bonsai style. Use a thick gauge wire like 18 to 20 gauge. Thinner wire can cut into the branch, whereas thicker wire won't damage the branch if left on longer. Start at the tip of the branch and work your way down, bending the branch to your desired location. Hold the wire tight when you're bending the branch, but not so tight that you girdle the branch. After the branch is bent, twist the wire around itself to lock it in place. Make sure you tape over the top of the wire to protect your bark from scratches. This is a quick and easy way to make sure your wire doesn't cut into the bark. You can do some minor pruning while the tree is wired, but it is best to wait until the branches have been wired to their final position before doing any heavy pruning. When you remove a branch, you'll see the light-colored wood underneath the bark. This is called the branch collar. Leave a few inches of this branch collar attached to the trunk. Cutting it off will leave a scar on the trunk that will be hard to hide. A couple of things to remember. Don't be afraid to prune hard. Most trees can handle heavy pruning without any ill effects. However, you don't want to do all your pruning at once. Heavy pruning can shock the tree, so it's best to spread it out over several years. If you do need to do a lot of pruning all at once, make sure you fertilize heavily during the growing season. Finally, don't try to force your branches into unnatural positions. This can damage your tree. If a branch snaps or cracks while wiring, it's best to remove it entirely. When your branches are wired into their final position, it's time to do your secondary pruning. Now you can go through and clean up your branches and make them look like they are growing out of the trunk. When you prune, make sure you make the cut close to the trunk, but not so close that you girdle the branch. You can also do some pinching at this stage. Pinching is a form of pruning the new growth of the tree. You simply pinch off the tips of the branches with your fingers. This will create fine deciduous ramification. Pinching is optional. Most trees can look great with or without it. However, if you feel like your tree needs some extra ramification, it can help fill out the tree and give it a more mature appearance. This has been a very basic overview of how to shape your bonsai. Each species of tree has its own unique characteristics and may require a slightly different approach. If you'd like to learn more, check out the books and videos recommended in the description. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Until next time.